The wind was blowing hard across the valley, carrying with it the cold that cut straight through clothes and skin. The war had ended only a few days earlier, but the land still looked frozen in fear. Broken metal, empty shelters, and abandoned machines were scattered like forgotten memories. A human war medic walked slowly through the snow-covered path, trying to find anyone who might still need help. He had been helping survivors all week, moving from one ruined place to another, hoping to bring comfort where he could. He was exhausted, but he kept walking. His boots were sinking into the snow, and each step felt heavier than the last. The air was thin, and every breath he took felt sharp in his chest. Still, he didn't want to stop. He believed that as long as someone was alive out there, it was his duty to at least try to find them. He adjusted the straps of the medical bag on his shoulder. Inside it were the last few items he had left: some bandages, a little medicine, a few blankets, and some water packets. He knew it wasn't much, but it was enough to save someone if he found them in time. As he reached a narrow rocky pass, he noticed something strange. At first, it looked like just another pile of broken rocks and frozen bush. But there was something different about it. Something was moving very slowly, barely noticeable, but moving. He stopped walking and narrowed his eyes. The light was dim, and the snow kept blowing around, making it hard to see clearly. He took a careful step forward, then another. The closer he got, the more his heart started to race, not from fear, but from confusion. He had seen many things during the war, but this felt different. When he finally reached the spot, he froze in place. Lying between the rocks was a huge creature, unlike anything he had ever seen up close. Its scales were dark with shades of blue and silver. Its wings were folded tightly against its body, shaking slightly as if it were shivering. Steam rose from its nostrils every time it exhaled, and its long tail was curled in a tight circle. An alien dragon. The medic had heard stories about creatures like this powerful, intelligent beings that lived on alien worlds and sometimes assisted alien soldiers. Most humans feared them, but seeing one in this condition was nothing like the stories. This was not a powerful beast ready to fight. This was a creature in pain. He could see it clearly now. The dragon's breathing was rough and uneven. Its eyes were half closed. Its body shook every few seconds, and its skin looked dull instead of shiny. It was sick, very sick. The medic's chest tightened. He wasn't sure what to do. Human medicine was not meant for alien biology. Even small mistakes could make things worse. And approaching a creature this large could be dangerous if it woke up frightened. But then he noticed something else. The dragon wasn't just sick. It was trying to breathe in the freezing air, struggling for warmth. Its huge body trembled like someone trapped in cold water. The medic slowly crouched down and watched the creature for a long moment. His breath made misty clouds in front of his face. He felt the weight of the moment. Here was a living being, alien or not, fighting for its life. And he was the only one around. He whispered quietly to himself, "I can't just leave you like this." He took a careful step forward, and the dragon's eye opened slightly. The eye was bright, filled with pain, but also awareness. It looked right at him, not as a threat, not as an enemy, just as a suffering creature staring at someone who might help. The medic raised his hand slowly, showing he had no weapon. "It's okay," he said gently, even though he wasn't sure if the dragon understood human words. His voice was calm, warm, and steady, the same tone he always used with scared patients. The dragon didn't move. It just kept watching him with tired eyes. He walked around the creature, staying slow and careful. He checked for visible injuries, but didn't find any. This wasn't a wound. This was an illness, something like a fever or infection. His mind raced. He had treated many human soldiers with infections during the war. But this alien creature was massive. Its body worked differently. Still, sickness was sickness, and cold was cold. No creature could fight both at the same time. He reached into his medical bag and pulled out a thermal blanket. It was small compared to the dragon's size, but it was something. He unfolded it and placed it across a part of the dragon's neck and shoulder. The dragon flinched slightly at first, but then relaxed when it felt the warmth spread. The medic smiled a little. "That's it. Just stay calm," he whispered. Next, he checked the dragon's breathing again. It was still struggling. He hesitated. Inside his bag was a small bottle of human antiviral medicine. It was powerful and usually helped soldiers recover from sudden fevers. But giving it to an alien creature, that was a risk he wasn't sure he should take. He looked at the dragon again. Its eyes were now fully open, watching him with a weak but trusting expression. The shaking hadn't stopped. Its breaths were still too shallow. If he did nothing, the cold alone might finish what the sickness started. He felt his hands shake a little, not from fear of the creature, but from fear of making the wrong choice. He had taken an oath to save lives, but he had never imagined he would be standing in a snowy valley deciding whether to give human medicine to an alien dragon. He placed his hand gently on its neck. The scales were cold, much colder than they should have been. The dragon's body trembled at his touch, not in anger but in exhaustion. "It's okay," he whispered again. "I'm going to try something." He opened the bottle, took a small dose he believed might help without being too strong, and moved closer to the dragon's mouth. He spoke softly as he did, keeping his voice steady and calm. "I don't know if this will work, but I hope it does." The dragon made a soft, low sound, almost like a weak rumble. It wasn't aggressive. It sounded more like a plea. The medic gave the medicine slowly, making sure the dragon swallowed it safely. After that, he gently placed another small blanket near the creature and set his bag down beside him. He didn't leave. He sat down in the snow, leaning against a rock, keeping watch over the dragon. The cold bit at his face and hands, but he stayed there. Every few minutes, he checked its breathing. Every hour, he made sure the blanket hadn't slipped off. He talked to it quietly, hoping his voice gave it some comfort. Night started to fall, and the valley grew darker, colder, and quieter. The medic wrapped his own coat tighter around himself and stayed awake as long as he could. Every time the dragon struggled to breathe, he leaned forward, checking it carefully. He wished he had better supplies. He wished someone else was there to help. But it was just him and the creature fighting through the freezing night. At one point, the dragon shifted slightly and let out a deep, tired sigh. The medic touched its neck gently and said, "Hang in there. Just make it until morning." Snow continued falling, slowly covering the ground around them. The medic's fingers went numb, but he didn't move away. He couldn't. Something inside him told him that staying close might make a difference. The dragon's eyes stayed half open, watching him whenever it had the strength. That tiny connection, the look of trust between them, kept him awake. Hours passed like that. Slow, quiet, heavy. The night felt endless, and he didn't know if the medicine was helping or making things worse. But he hoped. He hoped with everything he had, and as the sky slowly began to lighten with the first hint of morning, he realized he was still sitting there, still guarding the creature he had promised to help. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. He had done everything in his power to give the alien dragon a chance to survive. The morning light arrived slowly, slipping through the clouds like a gentle hand waking the world from a long sleep. The medic rubbed his eyes, trying to push away the stiffness in his neck and back. He had fallen asleep sitting upright against a rock, still wrapped in the cold that clung to everything around him. The first thing he did was look at the dragon. The creature was still lying there, Curled between the rocks, its wings pulled tightly to its body. Its breathing was slightly steadier than before, but it was still far from normal. The medicine might have helped a little, or maybe the blankets made a small difference. Either way, the dragon was still alive, and that gave the medic a tiny bit of relief. He stood up, stretching his arms as quietly as possible. He didn't want to startle the creature, even though it barely had the strength to react. When he looked closely, he saw frost gathered around the dragon's nostrils and along the edges of its wings. The cold had been cruel during the night. He walked over slowly, letting the crunch of snow under his boots announce his presence. The dragon's eye opened halfway, watching him again with the same tired awareness as the night before. There was something deep in that stare, something that made him feel as if the creature understood far more than he expected. He crouched down beside it, speaking softly. "You made it through the night. That's good. We're not done yet, though." His voice was calm, but filled with determination. This was no longer just an unexpected encounter. It was a responsibility. When he gave that medicine, he silently accepted that he would not walk away until he knew what happened to the creature. He checked the dragon's breathing with the same habit he used when checking wounded soldiers. He placed his hand near its chest, counting the slow rise and fall. The rhythm was still uneven. Not as bad as before, but not good enough. He needed to do more. The medic reached for his bag and pulled out one of the last water packets he had. He tapped the dragon gently near the jaw, guiding it to drink. It took a moment, but the creature managed to swallow some water. That, too, was a small victory. "You're stronger than you look," he murmured. "But the cold is holding you down." He glanced around the valley. The sun was weak, barely warming anything. Snowflakes floated slowly from the sky, drifting like small feathers. The medic realized that if the dragon stayed here much longer, the cold could undo any progress the medicine had made. But moving a creature this size was impossible. It had to regain its strength where it lay. He needed to warm it up somehow. He scanned the surroundings, searching for anything that could act as extra insulation. A few fallen tree branches lay covered in snow, but they wouldn't help much. Then he remembered something from survival training. Rocks near the edge of frozen ground sometimes held a bit of stored warmth from the day before. He walked a short distance and checked the rocks with his hands. Most were ice cold, but a few had a faint warmth underneath the surface. He collected as many as he could, carrying them back one by one. Each trip was slow and tiring, but he didn't stop. He placed the rocks around the dragon's body, forming a small barrier that could trap any little warmth that rose from the ground. The dragon watched him the entire time, its eyes shifting slightly with each movement he made. Even in its weakened state, it seemed curious about why a human, someone from a world not its own, was working so hard to help it dot after arranging the rocks. The medic took out the last thermal blanket and spread it across the dragon's side. The blanket barely covered even a fraction of the creature, but he hoped it would still make a difference. The dragon let out a soft rumble, a sound that felt like gratitude mixed with exhaustion. The medic placed a reassuring hand on its neck and stayed still for a moment, letting the creature feel his presence. "You're going to make it," he whispered. "I'll stay with you until you do." He sat down again, this time closer to the dragon's head. He watched its slow breaths, paying attention to every tiny sign of either recovery or danger. Hours passed quietly. The sun moved slowly across the sky, and the valley stayed silent except for the occasional soft wind. Every so often, the medic checked the dragon's temperature. He noticed that its scales were slightly warmer than before, though still not to a healthy level. He began to feel a cautious hope growing inside him. But then came a moment that almost made his heart stop. The dragon suddenly twitched hard, its whole body shivering in a wave that looked painful. It let out a low, strained sound that echoed through the valley. Its breathing became fast and uneven again. The medic reacted instantly, placing both hands on its neck and speaking quickly, trying to calm it. "It's okay. Breathe slow. Just breathe. Stay with me." He checked its vitals again, still weak, but not crashing. The sudden shiver was probably the illness fighting back, or the body reacting to temperature changes. He didn't know exactly, but he knew panic wouldn't help either of them. He stayed right beside the dragon until its breathing calmed once more. Only then did he let himself relax a little, though his heartbeat still raced. He pulled his bag closer and opened it, checking what he had left. Medicine for humans, small tools, bandages, water. Nothing designed for a creature this massive. Nothing made for an alien body. But he had one more decision to make, a difficult one. He looked at the bottle of antiviral human medicine. There was still more left. Giving the dragon another small dose could help strengthen its body against the sickness. But too much could also be harmful if its biology reacted badly. He thought carefully, weighing the risks in his mind. He had seen human soldiers recover from this medicine within a day or two. The dragon had already shown signs of slight improvement after the first dose. And it was still breathing, still watching him, still fighting. He sighed softly, rubbing his forehead. "I don't know if this is the right move," he murmured. "But I can't just sit here and watch you slip away." He took a deep breath and measured out a smaller amount than before, just enough to give the dragon's body a bit more help, but not enough to overwhelm it. He held the dose near the dragon's mouth again. The creature hesitated this time, letting out a weak huff. It didn't seem scared, just tired. The medic spoke softly, encouragingly. "I'm trying to help you. Trust me." After a moment, the dragon swallowed the dose. He placed a hand gently on its snout and felt the warm air of its breath against his glove. It was a little stronger now, even if only slightly. He sat back again, letting the silence settle around him. Snow continued to fall, but softer now, like a calm blanket being laid across the land. Hours passed slowly, but the dragon's breathing began to level out. The shaking became less frequent. Its eyes remained open longer when watching him. These were all small signs, tiny hints that the medicine might be working again. The medic felt his shoulders relax just a little. Not fully. Not yet. But enough to give him strength to keep going. As the sky shifted into the soft colors of late afternoon, he spoke to the dragon again, just to keep it awake and focused. "You know, I never expected to be here helping someone like you. But life brings strange moments." His voice held warmth, not fear or uncertainty. Somehow, sitting with an alien dragon didn't feel strange anymore. It felt right. Like this moment was meant to happen, even though he couldn't explain why. The dragon blinked slowly, its breathing steady now. It looked at him in a way that made him pause. There was something intelligent behind that gaze, something that felt close to understanding. He smiled gently. "Stay strong. You're doing better." The wind softened. The valley quieted, and for the first time since yesterday, the medic felt a small spark of hope. The creature had survived another day. And maybe, just maybe, it would survive many more. And with that thought, he prepared himself for whatever came next, ready to protect the dragon through another long night if needed. The sky faded into darker shades as the day slowly slipped toward evening. The medic felt the cold settle deeper into the valley, and he could tell another long night was coming. He checked the dragon again, hoping to see more improvement. Its breathing had steadied compared to the night before, but the creature still looked weak. Its body rose and fell slowly, its eyes opening only a little at a time. It was fighting, but the sickness hadn't left yet. The medic rubbed his gloved hands together and breathed warm air onto his fingers. Even though he was used to harsh conditions, This cold felt heavier, almost as if the valley itself didn't want to let anything heal easily. He stood up and walked a few steps, stretching his stiff legs. He stayed close to the dragon, careful not to go too far, yet the creature let out a soft sound, almost a faint rumble, when he moved away. It wasn't loud or frightening. It sounded more like a quiet call, like it didn't want to be left alone. The medic turned back with a gentle expression and walked closer again. "I'm here," he said quietly. "Relax, I'm not going anywhere." The dragon's eye blinked slowly, and the rumbling faded into silence. He sat down again next to its massive head. It was strange how comfortable he felt now, sitting beside something so large and powerful. If someone had told him weeks ago that he would spend the night caring for an alien dragon, he would have thought they were joking. But here he was, with no fear, no hesitation, just a sense of responsibility and calm determination. The day had taken a lot out of him. He hadn't eaten much. He hadn't rested properly. But he wasn't leaving the creature until he knew it was safe. That was simply who he was. The sun finally dipped behind the mountain ridges, and the valley started to darken. A soft blue glow covered the snowy landscape. The medic pulled out a small hand lamp from his bag and switched it on. The light was warm and steady, and it made the place feel less empty. The dragon shifted slightly, noticing the light. It exhaled a gentle cloud of warm air that hit the medic's arm and melted the frost on his sleeve. He smiled at the sight. Even in its weakened state, the dragon still held traces of warmth inside. Maybe that warmth would help it fight the illness. He took a small blanket from his own coat and placed it near the dragon's head. He didn't know if the creature understood the gesture, but it didn't resist. It just stared at him quietly, as if trying to understand why a human would care so much. The medic spoke again, more to keep the dragon calm than anything else. "You're doing better. Not fully, but better. Just keep fighting through the night." The creature blinked, as if acknowledging his words. The medic leaned back against the rocks, letting the hand lamp rest on his knee. The quiet around them was deep. No machines, no shouting, no sounds of conflict, just the soft wind and the dragon's rhythmic breathing. Night settled completely, and the cold sharpened. The medic knew this would be the hardest part, the long hours where nothing seemed to change, but everything felt risky. Creatures often worsened during the night. Fevers rose, breathing slowed, strength faded. He watched the dragon closely, every second ready to act if something changed. Minutes turned into an hour. Then, too, the darkness thickened, and a gentle snow began to fall again. Snowflakes landed softly on the dragon's scales and on the medic's shoulders. He brushed them away whenever they started to gather. After some time, the dragon opened both eyes, more fully than before. They glowed faintly in the lamp's light. The creature lifted its head just slightly, struggling but trying. The medic reacted fast, placing a steady hand against its jaw so it didn't strain itself too much. "Easy, easy. Don't push yourself," he whispered. The dragon lowered its head again and let out a warm huff of breath. The warmth hit the medic's face, making him close his eyes for a moment. In the middle of all the cold, that breath felt like a small flame of hope. He gently touched the dragon's neck again. The scales didn't feel as cold as they had been the night before. That was a good sign. "You're stronger now," he whispered. "Just a little more. We're not out of danger, but you're closer." The dragon made a soft sound, almost like a rumble coming from deep within. It didn't sound painful this time. It sounded peaceful, maybe even grateful, but the peace didn't last long. Around midnight, the creature suddenly shivered again, this time harder and more violently. Its wings twitched, sending small clouds of snow into the air. Its breath became uneven. The medic's heart jumped. He slid closer, steadying his hands on its neck and shoulder. "Stay with me," You're okay. Breathe slowly, he said, keeping his voice as calm as possible. The dragon's body continued shaking for a few seconds that felt like minutes. The medic checked its breathing again, his own hands trembling slightly, not from fear of the creature, but from fear of losing it after everything they had gone through. The shaking slowly eased. The breathing steadied. The dragon let out a long, slow exhale, as if exhausted from the episode. The medic sat back, letting out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. You scared me for a moment, he said softly, but you pulled through. He tightened his coat around himself and leaned closer to the dragon's head. He kept talking, even though he wasn't sure if the creature understood his words. Maybe it didn't, but the sound of a calm voice could soothe any living being. He talked about simple things: the sky, the snow, the way the valley looked when the sun hit it. He talked about how humans and aliens both went through hard times, even though their worlds were different. He talked about how sometimes the most unexpected moments brought the strongest connections. At one point, he even laughed softly and said, "If I tell anyone that I spent the night talking to a dragon, they'll think I've lost my mind." Surprisingly, the dragon lifted its head just a little, almost as if responding to the humor in his voice. The medic chuckled quietly and gently guided its head back down. "Rest," he whispered. "You need your strength." Hours passed. The night felt endless, but slowly the dragon's condition grew steadier. Its breathing didn't falter again. Its eyes stayed open more often, watching the medic as if memorizing his presence. The medic felt his own eyelids grow heavy. He tried to stay awake, but fatigue pulled at him from every direction. He forced himself to sit upright, not wanting to sleep in case something changed, but eventually his eyes closed for a moment, then opened, then closed again. The dragon noticed the way he kept fighting sleep. It lifted its head very slightly and nudged his arm with its snout, gentle, almost careful. The medic opened his eyes, surprised by the soft gesture. "You're looking after me now?" he whispered with a tired smile. The dragon blinked slowly, its breathing steady and warm. The medic exhaled deeply, letting himself feel the moment. A few hours ago, he had feared the creature wouldn't survive the night. Now, the dragon was awake enough to actually nudge him. The connection between them didn't feel strange anymore. It felt natural. He placed his hand on the dragon's snout and kept it there. The creature didn't pull away. Instead, it closed its eyes and breathed calmly, as if comforted by the touch. The valley grew quieter. The snow fell slower. And for the first time since this ordeal began, the medic felt a sense of peace settle over both of them. He stayed awake as long as he could, watching, listening, guarding. And as the sky slowly began to lighten again, he realized something important. The dragon wasn't just surviving, it was fighting back. It was improving. And maybe, just maybe, the next morning would bring something neither of them expected. The first signs of morning came softly, like a slow breath spreading across the sky. The medic had stayed awake almost the entire night, fighting sleep, shivering, and checking the dragon again and again. When a pale golden light touched the snowy ground, he finally felt a small wave of relief. Dawn always brought hope, even if nothing had changed yet. He stretched his stiff legs and rubbed his eyes. His back hurt from sitting against the sharp rocks all night. His hands were numb even inside his gloves. Still, the first thing he did was turn toward the dragon. The creature lay still, but not in the frightening way it did the first night. Its chest rose and fell smoothly. Its eyes were closed, but the calmness on its face was different, peaceful, not weak. The medic moved closer and reached out carefully. When he placed his hand on the dragon's neck, he felt something he had been waiting for since all of this started. Warmth, not a lot, but enough to show that the dragon's body was slowly fighting off the sickness. He took a deep breath, letting his shoulders relax just a bit. "You're getting better," he whispered. Finally, the dragon didn't react immediately. It was still resting. Its breath came out in warm puffs, melting tiny frost crystals around its nostrils. The medic used a piece of cloth to gently clean away some of the frost that had gathered overnight. "You did well," he said softly. "You lasted through the cold again." The valley around them was quiet, but not as frightening as before. The cold was still strong, yet something about the light made the place feel more alive. Snow sparkled under the gentle sun, and the air felt a little less sharp. The medic took a moment to look around. He hadn't paid attention to the scenery much since arriving. He was too busy trying to save the creature. Beside him, he noticed distant mountains glowing faintly under the sunrise. The sky had thin streaks of pink and yellow across the horizon. For a brief moment, he forgot about exhaustion and danger. He simply admired how peaceful everything looked compared to the chaos he had survived during the war. The dragon shifted slightly, bringing his attention back. Its eyes opened slowly. Not halfway, not with struggle. This time they opened fully, bright and aware. For the first time, the creature looked alert. The medic leaned closer, trying to hide the relief in his expression. "Good morning," he said gently. "You're awake." The dragon blinked once, then twice, its eyes focusing on him. It lifted its head just a little, still weak, but more stable than before. The medic reached out to steady it, and the dragon didn't resist. Instead, it leaned into his touch, pressing its snout softly into his hand. He felt a rush of warmth, not from the dragon's breath, but from the connection forming between them. A creature so powerful, so feared, now trusted him. It didn't see him as an enemy or stranger. It saw him as someone who stayed through cold nights, sickness, and danger. The medic gently stroked the side of its neck. "You scared me last night," he confessed quietly. "But look at you now." The dragon let out a low, soft sound, almost like a hum. A peaceful sound. Not a growl, not a warning, just something gentle. It surprised him how calm it was. He gave it another small patch of water to drink. The dragon drank more eagerly this time, which made him smile. "That's a good sign," he said with genuine relief. He checked the creature's temperature by placing his hand under one of its scales warmer, but not overheated. The medicine seemed to be working. Very slowly, but surely after making sure the dragon was comfortable, he stood and walked around the area, looking for anything that could help. The dragon watched him with slow, curious movements of its eyes. He gathered a few dry branches from under a large rock where the snow hadn't buried everything. With small stones, he formed a tiny fire pit just far enough to keep the dragon safe, but close enough to provide warmth. It took him several tries to get the fire going with the little equipment he had left. But eventually, a small flame appeared, growing into a steady, comforting fire. The dragon turned its head toward the warmth, eyes half closed, as if enjoying the new heat. "You like that?" the medic asked. "It's not much, but it should help." While the fire warmed the area, the dragon slowly shifted its wings, stretching them weakly. The medic's eyes widened. It was the first time the dragon had moved its wings since he found it. He took a step closer, checking for any strain. The dragon didn't seem in pain, just tired. A slow stretch, a small adjustment, then it settled again. "That's progress," he whispered happily. "Real progress." He crouched beside it and examined the creature more closely. There were no visible injuries. The illness had been the main problem all along. He felt grateful the second dose of medicine hadn't caused a bad reaction. The dragon nudged him gently with the tip of its nose. It wasn't strong, but it was enough to make him chuckle. "You're welcome," he said softly. "Really." As the fire burned steadily, the valley grew warmer by a degree or two, not enough to melt snow, but enough to make breathing easier. The medic sat down near the dragon, letting the heat touch his face. He didn't realize how much he needed warmth until he finally felt it. He took a small piece of dried food from his pocket, chewing slowly. He offered a piece to the dragon out of habit, but the creature sniffed it and lightly pushed it away with its snout. The medic laughed. "All right, I get it. Not your taste." The dragon blinked at him again, and for a moment, the medic could swear he saw a spark of personality, something playful or curious behind those bright eyes. The creature wasn't just recovering physically. Its awareness was returning, its mind becoming clearer. He continued talking to it, telling stories from his old village, the time he learned first aid, the mistakes he made during training. He didn't know why, but speaking to the dragon felt natural now. It listened quiet, focused, and sometimes responded with soft murmurs or small movements. Hours passed like this, slow, calm, comfortable. By midday, the dragon lifted its head higher than before. It looked around the valley, taking in its surroundings, as if noticing everything for the first time in days. Its wings stretched slightly again, and it adjusted its position, even shifting its front legs beneath its body. The medic's eyes widened in surprise. "You're actually trying to sit up?" he said, half laughing in disbelief. The dragon didn't sit fully, but the attempt alone was a huge improvement. It let out a breath that sent a small cloud of warm air into the cold sky. The medic placed a steadying hand near its shoulder. "Slowly. Don't rush it," he said gently. The dragon settled again, breathing heavily but steadily. It looked tired after the small effort, yet pleased with itself. The medic felt the same way, proud and hopeful. He knew they weren't completely safe yet. The sickness wasn't fully gone. The dragon still needed rest, warmth, and maybe another day of recovery. But something had changed. Today, the dragon wasn't just surviving. It was returning. And as the sun moved across the sky, the medic realized something else, something quiet but powerful. This creature wasn't just recovering because of his medicine or blankets or fire. It was recovering because it knew, deep down, that someone was staying by its side, someone who wouldn't leave. The medic rested his hand gently on its snout. The dragon closed its eyes, letting out a warm sigh that melted the snowflakes landing on its face. For the first time since the war ended, the medic felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. And he had no idea that the next morning would bring something even more surprising, something that would change his understanding of this creature forever. The night had been calm, and the medic had finally slept for a few hours beside the dragon, his hand resting lightly on its neck. When he woke, the sun was climbing slowly over the mountains, painting the snow in soft golden colors. He stretched his stiff arms and looked at the creature beside him. For the first time, he felt a deep sense of relief. The dragon was not just alive. It was awake, alert, and even moving its massive wings slightly. Its eyes focused on him, bright and clear, filled with a strange kind of awareness. The medic had never seen anything like it. After days of watching it struggle for life, to see the creature so alert and responsive was almost unbelievable. The dragon shifted slightly and nudged him gently with its snout. It was careful, deliberate, and the touch felt warm, almost comforting. "You're really strong," he whispered, smiling softly. "I didn't think we'd get here so soon." He checked the dragon's breathing. It was steady now, strong enough that he no longer needed to worry with every inhale and exhale. The fever that had once made it shiver through the night was gone, or at least controlled. Warmth radiated from its scales, and even its massive wings, once trembling from weakness, now lay calmly by its sides. The medic decided it was time to help it stand, even just a little. He had learned during his training that creatures, human or otherwise, needed to stretch and move after long periods of illness to regain full strength. He guided the dragon gently, using his hands to steady its enormous front legs. The dragon let out a soft rumble, a sound he couldn't place as either content or anxious. "Easy now," he murmured. "We'll take it slow." With patient effort, the dragon lifted itself a few inches, testing its legs. The medic supported its weight, feeling the immense strength beneath the scales. He marveled at how fragile the creature had seemed yesterday, shivering and struggling for each breath, and how alive it was now, so full of potential energy waiting to return to the world. As it settled back down for a moment, the medic noticed a flicker of movement in the distance. At first, he thought it was just the snow blowing in the light morning wind, but then he saw fast, purposeful shapes approaching the valley. His heart tightened. In all his time among humans and creatures alike, he had never expected this. The dragon's own kind, aliens from another world, were coming. The medic froze for a moment, unsure what to do. He had no idea if these newcomers would be friendly, curious, or hostile. But as the shapes drew closer, he realized that they were not soldiers in the usual sense. They moved with careful precision, scanning the area for the creature. And then he saw the glimmer of strange metallic gear and faint luminescent markings on their armor. Unlike anything he had ever encountered, the dragon stirred, sensing them too. It lifted its massive head, nostrils flaring, wings twitching slightly. Its body tensed, but it did not move aggressively toward the newcomers. Instead, it stayed near the medic, as if seeking protection or guidance. The medic stood slowly, hands raised slightly to show he meant no harm. "I don't know who they are," he said softly, "but I'll keep you safe." The aliens arrived fully in the clearing, moving with a cautious and respectful distance. They paused when they saw the dragon, their expressions, if they could be read, showing surprise and concern. The dragon didn't react aggressively. Instead, it remained near the medic, shifting its massive head to glance at him, as if communicating silently. "This human had saved me." The medic's heart raced. He could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the unknown. But then something extraordinary happened. One of the aliens, stepping closer than the rest, made a small, soft gesture with its hand. It was a sign, a greeting, but also one of acknowledgement. The dragon seemed to recognize it for a moment, but then returned its attention fully to the medic. The medic realized in that instant that the dragon was choosing him as someone it trusted above anyone else, even its own kind. He felt an unfamiliar mix of awe and responsibility. This was more than survival. It was a bond, something rare and sacred. "Looks like you've got friends," he whispered to the dragon, keeping his voice calm. "But I think they know who saved you." The lead alien stepped forward, speaking in a language the medic couldn't understand. Their gestures were deliberate, almost ceremonial. But the dragon reacted immediately, nudging the medic gently and keeping its body between him and the alien leader. Its behavior was protective, but not aggressive. It was asserting a connection, showing that the human had been its guardian through the worst moments of its illness. The medic didn't flinch. He stood tall, allowing the dragon to communicate for both of them. Slowly, he realized that the alien group was not hostile. They were curious, cautious, and clearly impressed by the bond forming between him and the creature. The lead alien made another gesture, and this time the dragon responded differently. It rumbled low in its chest, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to carry meaning. The medic couldn't understand it fully, but he could sense respect and recognition in the sound. "You understand me too, huh?" he whispered, gently stroking the dragon's neck. "We're in this together." The aliens did not approach further. They maintained their distance, but observed closely, clearly studying the connection between the dragon and the medic. One of them knelt slightly, bringing itself closer to the ground, almost as if bowing, while the dragon watched calmly, then glanced back at the medic. The gesture was deliberate, showing acknowledgement of the human's role in saving the creature. The medic swallowed hard, feeling a mixture of pride, relief, and astonishment. He had never imagined that giving that first dose of medicine, staying through a cold night, and caring for the creature could lead to this moment. Yet here it was the dragon's own kind, arriving and accepting his presence. The dragon nudged him again, softly pressing its snout into his hand. It was as if it wanted to reassure him. I chose you. You saved me. And now they see it too. The lead alien stepped back slightly, raising both hands in a gesture of peace. Then, to the medic's surprise, they began communicating with soft tones, almost like a song, accompanied by small movements of their hands. The dragon responded immediately, lifting its wings slightly, shifting closer to the medic, and making soft hums of acknowledgement. The medic realized something incredible. The dragon was showing that he was part of its world now. He was no longer just an observer or caretaker. He was part of its life. Its own kind recognized the bond, even if they could not fully communicate with him. He breathed slowly, trying to steady his racing heart. We made it, he whispered to the dragon. We really made it. The aliens lingered for some time, observing, but not interfering. The dragon stayed near the medic, still alert but calm. Eventually, they began moving back, retreating slowly but respectfully. One of them lingered at the edge of the clearing, raising a hand in farewell. The dragon rumbled softly, acknowledging the gesture, then shifted fully back toward the medic. The medic knelt beside the dragon, brushing snow from its scales gently. They'll be back, he said quietly. But I think they know now. They know you're safe. Because of me. The dragon nudged him once more, softly, deliberately. Its eyes shone brightly, filled with gratitude, awareness, and something deeper that he could not describe. It wasn't just recognition of care, it was connection. Mutual respect, loyalty. The medic took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. He had spent nights fearing the creature might not survive, worried about sickness, cold, and danger. And now, here they were, the dragon fully alive, alert and choosing to remain with him, and its own kind acknowledging his role without a single word shared between them. The valley was quiet again, filled with the soft warmth of sunlight and the gentle crackle of the small fire he had built. The medic rested his hand on the dragon's massive head. You're amazing, he said softly. And now, we face the future together. The dragon let out a low, steady rumble. It was calm, peaceful, and full of a silent promise. The medic smiled, feeling a bond he had never known before. He understood something very clearly. No matter what came next, he and the dragon were connected, not just by circumstance, but by trust, care, and a shared struggle for life. And though he didn't know what the alien visitors would do next, he knew one thing for certain. He would face it with the dragon beside him. They had survived the worst together. Now they would face whatever came next together, as partners, as allies, as friends. The sun climbed higher, melting small patches of frost, and the valley seemed to glow with quiet promise. The medic leaned back against a rock, still holding the dragon's snout gently. The dragon's eyes tracked him, calm and steady, and he felt a deep, unshakable certainty. This was no longer just about survival. It was about connection, trust, and something neither of them had expected, but both had found in each other. The valley was quiet, the soft golden sunlight reflecting off the snow and rocks, and for the first time in days, the medic felt completely calm. The dragon beside him lay partially stretched out, its massive wings slowly moving as if testing their strength. It didn't need him to guide every movement anymore. It was strong enough to trust its own body. Yet it stayed close, keeping its head near the medic as if to say, "You are my anchor." The medic smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt since the early days of the war. Caring for the creature, watching it recover, and earning its trust had been exhausting, yet fulfilling in a way he couldn't put into words. The alien dragon had started out as a helpless being, shivering and weak, and now it was alert, aware, and alive in a way that amazed him. He rose slowly, stretching his sore muscles, and looked around. The alien visitors from yesterday were gone, leaving only traces of their presence in the distant tracks in the snow. It was quiet, peaceful, and still. He felt a sense of pride, but also responsibility. The dragon depended on him, and he knew that the bond they had formed was precious and fragile. The dragon stirred, nudging him gently with its snout. Its eyes gleamed brightly, reflecting the sun as if daring him to stand and move. The medic laughed softly. "All right, I get it. Time to see what you can really do," he said. He carefully guided the dragon toward an open area of the valley, flat enough for it to try standing on its own. The first attempts were shaky. Its legs trembled under its massive weight, and its claws sank slightly into the snow. The medic stayed close, steadying it with his hands on the shoulders and chest, speaking in calm, encouraging tones. "Take your time," he whispered. "There's no rush. You're doing amazing." The dragon lifted itself fully, legs steady now. It flexed its wings slowly, stretching them wide, and the medic couldn't help but marvel at the sheer size and power. Yet, in spite of that power, it didn't act aggressively. It looked to him for guidance, for reassurance, and the medic realized that this was a trust he had earned, a connection stronger than any words could convey. "See? You've got this," he said, patting its massive neck gently. The dragon shifted, then stepped forward carefully, testing the snow beneath its claws. Each step was deliberate, precise, and full of new strength. The medic followed, his own heart racing with excitement. After days of struggle, seeing the creature move freely for the first time in what felt like forever was exhilarating. As it walked, the dragon turned its head toward him, eyes filled with awareness, almost like it was acknowledging, "You stayed. You helped me. And now I'm stronger." The medic felt a wave of emotion he hadn't expected, realizing how deeply he cared for this being that was not even from his world. The sun climbed higher, and the warmth began to melt the frost from the valley floor. Patches of grass, previously hidden under layers of snow, became visible. The dragon sniffed at the air, nostrils flaring, testing the scents and sounds of the valley. Its curiosity seemed alive again, not dulled by illness or fear. The medic observed quietly, letting the creature explore while staying near enough to intervene if needed. He had learned a lot over the past days, not just about survival, but about patience, empathy, and trust. He realized that saving a life wasn't always about medicine or tools. Sometimes it was about presence, care, and the willingness to stay through the hardest nights. The dragon returned to him, nudging him gently again. This time, it pressed its head against his chest, the warmth of its massive body radiating into him. He wrapped his arms around its neck lightly, feeling the steady beat of its heart beneath the scales. "You've come a long way," he whispered, "from shivering in the cold to standing here with me. I'm proud of you." The dragon's eyes closed briefly, a low rumble vibrating in its chest, a sound the medic interpreted as a form of gratitude. It wasn't just the medicine that had saved it. It was the human presence, the patient care, the steady voice, the unwavering support through the longest nights. As they sat together, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the quiet of the valley, the medic noticed distant clouds moving in the sky. He remembered the alien visitors from yesterday. They might return, but he wasn't afraid. The dragon was strong now, and they had formed a bond that went beyond fear or misunderstanding. He stood and brushed the snow from his coat. "We need to keep moving," he said gently. "The valley is safe, but it's time to find shelter, food, and prepare for what comes next." The dragon responded almost instantly, rising to its full height. Its wings stretched wide, powerful and steady, and the medic followed, amazed at how quickly it had regained its strength. The movement was fluid, elegant, and full of purpose. It was no longer a creature weakened by sickness. It was alive, capable, and aware got as they walked together through the valley. The medic noticed subtle details, the way the dragon's claws pressed into the ground, leaving deep, precise marks. The way its tail balanced its movement. The way its head turned attentively to watch him, ensuring he stayed close. It was a partnership now, one that required mutual trust and understanding. Hours passed, and they reached a small clearing near a cluster of rocks that could offer protection from sudden wind or snow. The medic gathered some small stones and branches to make a temporary shelter. The dragon watched quietly, allowing him to work without interruption. It seemed to understand that this was part of survival, part of care, and part of trust. When the shelter was ready, the medic stepped back and wiped sweat from his brow. "There," he said. "Safe for now. You can rest." The dragon lowered itself carefully into the shelter, its massive head resting lightly on the snow-covered ground. Its eyes stayed on the medic for a long moment, as if communicating silently. "I trust you. You saved me. I will stay with you." The medic knelt beside it, brushing snow from its scales. "And I'll stay with you," he said softly. "Through everything, we'll face it together." As the sun began to set, painting the valley in warm hues of orange and pink, the medic realized that the creature he had saved had also changed him. It wasn't just the act of helping, it was the connection. The awareness that life, no matter how different, could form bonds that transcended worlds, species, and fear. He sat beside the dragon, watching as it shifted slightly to find comfort, and let himself feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that survival was possible, that trust was powerful, and that bonds formed in adversity could last far longer than anyone expected. Night fell slowly, and the stars began to twinkle above. The medic looked up, feeling the vastness of the universe pressing gently against his mind. And yet, beside him, the dragon rested, breathing steadily, alive and aware, a living proof of courage, patience, and compassion. He reached out and placed his hand on its snout once more. "We made it," he whispered. "We really did. And now, we start something new, together." The dragon rumbled low and soft, a sound that felt like a promise of trust, loyalty, and companionship. The medic smiled, feeling the weight of the past days fall away. All that mattered now was the bond they had formed and the future they would face side by side. The valley was quiet, the stars bright, and the air crisp. For the first time in many nights, the medic felt fully at peace. The dragon, once shivering and sick, now lay calmly beside him, strong, aware, and trusting. They had survived together, healed together, and now they would face the world together, no longer human and alien as strangers, but as partners, companions, and friends. And in that quiet, frozen valley, under the soft glow of starlight, the medic realized something extraordinary. Sometimes, life brings the most unexpected bonds, and those bonds can be stronger than fear, sickness, or even the distance between worlds. He whispered one last time into the night, "We made it, and we'll face whatever comes next together." The dragon shifted slightly, nuzzling him, as if to say the same. And in that simple, silent understanding, the story of survival, care, and connection came to its beautiful, peaceful conclusion.